Quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
can you state
She's asking a
categorically,
question. Don't
Mr.
be
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You are
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can
No,
you
I'm not
give
going
us
to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today and thank you for continuing to support this platform. Our goal is to give you information that puts you ahead of the globalist constructed curve that dives right into a brick wall. Our goal is to get you on an off-ramp before you hit that brick wall, so that you have your remaining freedoms and liberties left intact and hopefully can actually enhance your freedoms and liberties because you're ahead of that curve. And that is our role here at DaveJanda.com and Operation Freedom. Now look, we have a radio show every Sunday. It's live and it's free. Go to DaveJanda.com, hit the listen live button. You're with us with great guests, great analysis, great information that puts you ahead of that curve that ends in the brick wall constructed by the totalitarian thugs, the deep state, the New World Order crowd, the criminal international banking syndicate, whatever you want to call it. Our goal is to enhance your freedoms and liberties. Now, part of that is we need to give you a heads up on certain issues. For months, years, we have spoken to you through my interviews with Dan Brigman and the like about how the globalists are targeting the food supply. I live in the United States of America. I live in Western Europe. I live in Australia. I live in New Zealand. My food's going to be just fine. No, it's not. That's not fear porn. It's putting you ahead of the curve. They've targeted your food supply. And I've spoken about this for years and have been deemed a conspiracy theorist because I speak about this. No, it might be conspiracy, but it's conspiracy reality. And if you haven't taken the appropriate actions to protect yourself, you need to. Such as what? Storable food, storable water. Best company, Numana, Numanna.com. Now, let me just, I've told you about this quote before from Henry Kissinger. Oh, he's an old guy and he's like a grandpa. No, he's a totalitarian thug globalist. Fact. Quote, Kissinger. Quote, who controls the food supply controls the people. End quote. Yeah, you think? Part of the globalist syndicate is the Rockefeller Foundation, right? We've spoken about this before. But the Rockefeller Foundation, look, here's what the globalists do. Do they have any ethics? No. Are they evil? Yes. Are they totalitarian thugs? Yes. But in their warped little minds, they believe they're being ethical by what? They see all of us as in the shower. And they see them as flushing the toilet while we're still in the shower. And if they think they're giving us a heads up about how they're about to flush the toilet, they think they're being ethical. Okay? Even though when they flush the toilet, millions of us that they call useless eaters, they don't call us useless eaters. Let's go back to Kissinger. Quote, this is from the book Final Days. He was quoted. Quote, the elderly are useless eaters, end quote. Even though when they flush that toilet, millions of us useless eaters are at a minimum harmed, and at a maximum, many of us are offed in the process, and they're fine with that. The Rockefeller Foundation, globalist syndicate organization, president starts countdown until all hell breaks loose. Rockefeller Foundation President Rajiv Shah told Bloomberg, quote, a massive immediate food crisis, end quote, is on the horizon. Shah provides what could be a timeline for the next global food crisis that could begin, quote, in the next 6 months, end quote. It's already started, by the way, as we'll point out. Shah's appearance on Bloomberg is interesting because of the foundation's repetitive talk about the need for the global food supply to be reset to a more sustainable one. How does that work? The globalists get everything they want, and you and me, well, we're given crumbs, if we're lucky. That's their sustainability model. The foundation has closely aligned views with the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab. You'll get, with our reset, you'll get nothing and you'll be happy about it. Advocating for a global reset. MyShield products are EPA and FDA approved and are proven ready to help you, your family, and your community neutralize COVID, bacteria, viruses, spores, and fungi. The water-based alcohol-free hand sanitizer foam and disinfectants are safe for people, animals, and the environment. Application of the MyShield products has been confirmed by independent studies to provide persistent protection for 28 days on surfaces and for 4 hours on the skin with just one application with a very quick dry time. Check out MyShield products at OperationFreedomHealth.com. That's OperationFreedomHealth.com. It's not just the Rockefeller Foundation. How about another globalist syndicate organization, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund? Global food crisis. This is from Peter Cattle. IMF warns of unrest amid food supply shortages. The IMF has become the most recent global body to release a warning regarding potentially forthcoming global food shortages, saying that vulnerable nations are at risk of civil unrest amid supply issues. Civil unrest linked to sky-high food prices is in the cards for poorer countries, the IMF has warned, amid fears that the world could be heading into a global food crisis as a result of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Right, and remember, 30% of grain supplies come out of Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus, along with fertilizer supplies. And who does it impact most? At first, the third world countries. Then we have the World Bank, another globalist organization. They're telling us we're about to flush the toilet. IMF, Rockefeller Foundation, World Bank. World Bank chief warns of food crisis due to Russia-Ukraine conflict. This from the Epoch Times. The World Bank has warned of a, quote, human catastrophe from a food crisis, unquote, that could see millions forced into poverty due to the full-scale invasion launched by Russian forces in Ukraine. As Daniel Brigman has pointed out, what does this do? This will lead these food shortages to even more mass migration from the third world, leading to further chaos, which the deep state is all about, because out of their chaos model, whenever chaos hits, they get more power, more control, and more of their moolah. Then we have the syndicate's little puppet, the FBI. FBI warns of timed ransomware attacks on agriculture sector. In a recent alert, the FBI warned that food and agriculture businesses could become a target of ransomware attacks at the sector's busiest time of year. Then we have all this. Past 18 months, with food supply processing plants having planes crash into them, catch on fire spontaneously. A string of fires destroys food processing facilities across America. A curious string of fires and plane crashes over the past several months have destroyed the facilities of at least half a dozen and now up to a dozen and a half major food processors across a number of states, exacerbating an escalation of inflation and supply chain crisis that is quickly becoming chronic. One of the most recent instances appears to be destruction of an Oregon-based Azure Standards joint headquarters and warehouse facilities during the night of April 18th. If you go back to the interview I did recently with Dan Brigman, it's on this channel, he talks about Azure being a very important plant. Their plant supplied the vast majority of the United States with organic products. Then, on April 13th, there was a plane that crashed into the Gem State Processing Plant in Hayburn, East Idaho. And then we had a plane crash on April 21st 2022, in Georgia, into a General Mills plant. Well, lately, we had in Chesapeake, Virginia, the Purdue Farms processing plant caught fire. Multiple large food processing and distribution plants in U.S. have recently exploded or burned down. This from Matt Agorist. Since the beginning of the year, there have been several large food processing facilities that have exploded or burned to the ground across the United States. In addition to the ones I've spoken of before, here's some more. In Oregon, there was a meat processing plant in Conway, in Oregon. A massive fire brought down a meat processing plant. There was another one in Conway, New Hampshire. Salinas, California, a massive fire at the Taylor Farms processing facility. Weeks before that, a massive fire engulfed a Walmart distribution food center in Plainfield, Indiana. In Hermiston, Oregon, in February, there was a massive food processing facility suddenly exploded. There were not only food distribution plants, but in Maricopa, Arizona, in March, a massive fire wiped out the Maricopa food pantry. In fact, since last year, there have been more than a dozen and a half of these fires and explosions that have taken food processing and distribution centers. And then we have the fertilizer issue, right? As mentioned, 30%, or at least 30% of fertilizer comes out of Ukraine, Russia, Belarus. We're banning that right in the beginning of plant season. Then we have this Union Pacific. They're rail lines that transport a lot of fertilizer. And one of the companies, fertilizer companies, CF Industries, put a warning out. Union Pacific has curtailed fertilizer shipments, delaying deliveries and preventing new rail orders from being taken. I've spoken about this before, but it bears repeating. And in light of all these fires and explosions, and in spite of all these warnings from these globalist syndicate organizations, CF Industry Holdings, a leading global manufacturer of hydrogen-nitrogen-based products, informed customers it serves by Union Pacific Rail Lines that railroad-mandated shipping reductions would result in nitrogen fertilizer shipment delays during the spring application season. Quote, the timing of this action by Union Pacific could not come at a worse time for farmers, said Tony Wool, President and Chief Executive Officer of CF Industry Holdings. It turns out that Union Pacific attributed the issues to a shortage of employees and equipment, maintenance of that equipment. Why would that be? Well, you have to be careful. October 13th, 2021, Union Pacific is complying with federal mandates. Said by December 8th, 2021, that they had to have their entire workforce. Well, then a judge ruled that this is not being mandated for federal contractors. Well, then on the next day, December 9th, Union Pacific and Burlington Northern Santa Fe suspend the mandate. But by that time, remember, they were told that by December 8th that you have to be. 73% of employees were fully, and 7% were partially, soon to be fully. Well, I made some calls into some contacts I have in the industry, rail industry. And what CF Industries presented about, you're going to cut back 20% of your shipments of fertilizer. Well, the people with a lot of seniority work the lines associated with fertilizer and diesel fuel. They've also put a clamp on diesel fuel, right? And we're seeing prices going through the roof, right? What's going on? It's a willful targeting of our food supply. And they've told us they're going to do it, but 99% of people are unaware. Except you are aware. Everyone at DaveJanda.com has been aware for years. This is why we put people so far ahead of the curve, not just in what we do on our public platform, but what we do on our subscription platform, which is priceless, which only costs $9 a month. We provide priceless information that saves lives. It does. That's not hyperbole. It's fact. Ask anyone who subscribes to our platform. Their life has been changed for the better, and in many cases, their life was saved because of the information we provide that is nowhere else on other platforms. I hope you become part of DaveJanda.com. Try it for a month. If you don't like it, get rid of it. But I'm not sure why. Because the information puts you months, frankly years, ahead of that curve that ends in a brick wall. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.